She was born into poverty. She was told she wouldn't make it. She was abused, abandoned, and underestimated. But she became unstoppable. Her name is Oprah Winfrey. The world sees the success, the billions, the empire, the influence, but few truly understand the pain behind the power. Because Oprah's story didn't begin with cameras and lights. It began with silence, with shame, with struggle. She was born in rural Mississippi to a teenage mother, raised in a world where her voice didn't matter and her dreams weren't allowed. As a child, she wore potato sacks as dresses because her family couldn't afford proper clothes. She wasn't the girl people rooted for. She was the girl people forgot. But that silence, that loneliness, it lit a fire inside her. From an early age, Oprah found refuge in words, in books, in storytelling. She read everything she could get her hands on, not just for entertainment, but to escape, to believe, to imagine something bigger than the life she had. Yet life didn't make it easy. At just 9 years old, she was sexually abused, and by 14, she was pregnant. The baby died shortly after birth. Most people would break under that kind of pain. Most people would give up. But not Oprah. She didn't let her pain define her. She used it to drive her. She knew the world would never hand her power, so she created her own, step by step, voice by voice. She got her first job in radio at just 17. People said her voice was too emotional, her look was too black, and her presence too much. But she didn't shrink. She grew louder. Oprah didn't fit the mold, so she broke it. In a world dominated by white male hosts, she created a space where real emotions were welcomed, where vulnerability was strength, where truth was powerful. And in doing so, she didn't just become famous, she became a movement. Millions of people turned on their televisions every day, not just to watch, but to feel, to connect, to heal. And it wasn't just entertainment. Oprah brought truth into living rooms. She talked about trauma, self-worth, forgiveness, and purpose. Things people were afraid to say out loud, because she knew what it meant to suffer in silence. What makes Oprah special isn't her wealth, it's her resilience. It's how she turned every no into a stronger yes. How she refused to be the product of her past. How she built a kingdom from the very ruins meant to bury her. You see, everyone wants to be powerful, but few are willing to walk through the fire it takes to get there. Oprah walked through that fire and came out with grace. She said, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." And she meant it. She never pretended to be perfect. She never hid her scars. She showed the world that it's okay to be broken, as long as you don't stay there. That healing isn't weakness. It's work, and it's worth it. Oprah taught us something the world desperately needed to hear. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. She could have stayed bitter. She could have disappeared into the statistics, but instead, she built one of the most influential platforms in history, and then used that platform to lift others. That's what real power looks like. Not just climbing the mountain, but turning around and pulling others up with you. And if you're sitting there thinking you can't make it because your past is too dark or your pain is too deep, Oprah is living proof that your history does not define your destiny. You don't need the perfect family. You don't need the right background. You don't need to be born rich, pretty, or lucky. You just need fire. The kind that says, "I will rise anyway." Every time she was told she didn't belong, she created her own space. Every time someone tried to silence her, she spoke louder. Every time she was told she wasn't enough, she became more. That's the spirit that changes the world. That's the voice that lives forever. And maybe you're not famous, maybe you're not seen, but your voice matters, your story matters, you matter. You don't have to be Oprah to rise, but you do have to be brave. Brave enough to believe that your life can mean something. Brave enough to tell your story even when it shakes. Brave enough to keep going even when it hurts. Because every time you stand up after being broken, you echo her strength. Every time you use your pain to push forward, you walk her path. Every time you believe in yourself, despite the doubt, you honor what she built. So let this be your reminder. You are not the things you've been through. You are the fire you chose to become.